Alright folks, welcome to 9.2. So we are seeing some fun aspects jumping out here with our different RESTO shams as they're coming together. What we're going to touch on first is actually the different builds. One for Mythic Plus that you see on the screen right now, then we'll jump into rating. We'll talk about a few buffs that are coming, and there's some quality of life changes, specifically for Shaman in general. And from there, we'll talk about some of our set bonuses and ultimately like where we want to go with double legendaries. So stay tuned for that. What you're seeing on the screen right now is the recommended build for Mythic Plus. So tier 1, you want to go with Undulation, and this will actually complement our tier set bonus here really well. So ultimately, we want to be casting Healing Surge as much as possible. So we'll see a lot of chain heals, healing waves, healing surges in the next little bit, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Like, it's really going to feel rewarding for us. Tier 2, Echo of the Elements. Tier 3, I go with a static charge just to bring that AoE stun. It's great when your healer can help out with that. Tier 4, Ancestral Vigor, which basically increases our heal. Tier 5, Graceful Spirit, basically reducing the Spirit Walker's grace cooldown. That makes a huge difference as you're trying to stay on the move and stay at a standing in the bad. Tier 6, Cloudburst Totem, basically just complementing your heals even more, and Ascendance. So we knock out all kinds of great healing, especially if you can get a group that's stacked like a bunch of melee on a tank. Like, this makes a huge difference. Now, as far as the raid build, it starts to look a little different. We're going to go with Unleash Life, Echoes of the Elements for tier 2, usually Spirit Wolf for tier 3, and raiding you won't get any benefit from an AoE stun. I usually go with Earthen Wall Totem for tier 4, and there's a couple good reasons why. Really just defers some damage, and overall, like, that's one of the challenges with Resto Shaman. They don't have a ton of specific heals for a tank, although you can drop an Earth Shield on them if you're ever in a pinch. As far as tier 5 goes, it's usually Windrush Totem just to complement our mobility, so you'll see that roll out. Tier 6, we usually stick with Cloudburst Totem, just nice to have that extra heal. And then finally, tier 7 is more of a Wellspring, and that just creates a surge of water, basically improving our heals, right? Real easy way. Like, Resto Sham is just in a absolute great spot in terms of its heals. And I think from a throughput perspective, it's up there. It's up there with some of the best heals in the game, like Mistweaver for sure. From a healing per second perspective, just absolutely great. So that's our talent breakdown. Now there's a few changes coming here with 9.2. The first one is actually tied to Flame Shock that we don't actually use that much, but on occasion. It's actually target capped at 6 now, and Frost Shock's had its damage increased by 40%. So keep that close, because that's slowly going to start to be a big DPS mode for us. Been a couple new glyphs as far as just what you can be. If you don't like being a Spirit Wolf anymore, there's all kinds of other options that are out there. If you want to be a Vulpin or a Lupin, I don't know. Spirit Wolf's still the go-to, my preference personally. So what we do start to see rather quickly is some significant heals start to drop here. And that's great, but as we get into Eternity's End and we see the return of tier set bonuses, this is going to be a ton of fun. Overall, we do know that there is a great buff that comes as soon as you get the two piece set bonus tied to the Eternity's End tier set. It's also known as tier 28 tier set. Basically, you get a buff called Heal the Soul as you get the 2 pieces, and your critical healing increases the critical chance of your next chain heal by 2%, stacking up to 50 times. So you should be stacking crit already, And ultimately, like, you shouldn't need 50 times to get that critical heal off, but as that happens, you'll start to really, it'll get a lot easier in terms of your mana consumption. The tier 4 bonus, or the 4-piece bonus of tier 28, is called Heal the Soul, and your chain heal critical hits reduce the remaining cooldown of one of your totems by 2 seconds. So your healing stream totem, your healing tide totem, your spirit link totem, also your chain, also now cast chain heal when you drop the totem. So we're just going to have chain heals critting into more totems that are also casting more chain heals. It's gonna be silly, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a really fun stretch here to see how the class continues to build and grow. I think overall, Resto Shamans are in a great spot. I know I've enjoyed playing with a bunch of different groups throughout the Mythic Plus season so far. So overall, pretty small issues to get this set up, but this is going to feel very powerful, and I think that's the reward that you want from your tier bonus. Now jumping into legendaries, like our go-to legendary for raids was the Primal Tide Core. The Mythic Plus legendary was either Deep Tremor Stone or Raging Vesper Vortex, and that's really just been like the go-to between the two. You're not going to see a massive change here. It ultimately is just going to come down to what covenant that you're associated with. Primal Tide Core is going to be the go-to for raids. Deep Tremor Stone or Raging Vesper Totem is going to be the go-to. And in fact, if you're that familiar with Kyrian and the Raging Vesper Vortex, you'll actually just combine it with the Deep Tremor Stone. And it'll just allow your Earth Elemental to have a permanent Earthquake attached to it, and you're going to see some awesome damage. I know it's super rewarding when you see the amount of damage that some people who know how to properly manage their Earth Elemental are doing right now. It's just an absolute blast. So keep that in mind. Overall, the class is in a totally wicked spot. As far as best covenants, hey, for raiding, there's a bunch of options there. Necrolord, Venthyr, Kyrian, all totally viable. Night Fae is decent, but it's just kind of in more of an average class where the other groups are certainly leading the charge. Finally, for Mythic Plus, the recommendation here is actually to go with Kyrian. It just helps you with that raw damage output, and once you can combine your Deep Tremor Stone with the Raging Vesper Vortex, like, that's the best of the legendary builds that you could ask for. So definitely keep that in mind as you're out, hopefully enjoying yourself a little bit here with where the class is headed. Alright folks, that's kind of everything I'm throwing right now. If there's any other questions or thoughts that you have on where Resto is going, or ultimately where the rest of the class is headed, definitely drop it, leave it down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer your questions. But most importantly, enjoy 9.2. I'll talk to you all soon. Later.